Thank you for joining us at xm.com for the special report video. We'll be exploring the latest political developments in the UK and, of course, how that affects the pound. I'm Christina Marujas. Joining me today is Marios Hadjikyriacos, investment analyst. So on December 12th, the UK is holding its probably most crucial election in its recent history because that result could show essentially what form Brexit takes. With just 2 weeks to go now from the elections, how do you see things shaping up? Are we going to get Brexit done this time?
Well, that really depends on who wins, right? So, look, if you have a simple look at opinion polls, that would suggest that the Tories are going to run away with it. So they're polling around the 30% neighborhood, which is almost 10 points ahead of Labour at this point. Now, the problem is that opinion polls are inherently unpredictable in forecasting UK elections. The exact same situation took place back in 2017. We had the Tories leading the polls by 10 percentage points. Every pollster was forecasting a clear, comfortable Tory majority, but in the end we got a hung parliament. Labour made a strong comeback. Now, are we going to see that this time around? I don't think so, but the real question will be, will the Tories have a strong enough showing to get a majority of their own? Because this time there's probably not many parties that are willing to ally themselves with the Tories. Now, domestic, as far as what party is proposing rather, the Tories are campaigning on get Brexit done. We want the Brexit process to move forward, give us a majority, we'll pass the deal that Boris Johnson negotiated through Parliament, and we'll enter the second phase of the negotiations. Labour, on the other hand, is proposing if we come into government, we'll go back to Brussels, we'll renegotiate a much softer Brexit deal, and then we'll bring that deal back to the British public for a second referendum, which will also include the prospect of remaining in the EU. So radically different Brexit outcomes. The two major parties are equally radically different on their domestic policies. The Tories have a very modest spending plan, whereas Labour has an extravagant spending plan. For every £1 that the Tories are proposing in spending, Labour is proposing 28 almost. So there's a huge difference in terms of potential fiscal stimulus depending on who gets elected.
Now, let's turn to the pound a little bit because it did gain some strength recently, but it's inevitable for somebody to wonder if that's sustainable and, of course, for how long, given all this political turmoil in the country. Now, how will the elections result affect the pound?
There are many different outcomes. I'll focus on the two most likely ones. So I think the most bullish outcome for the pound would be a clear Conservative majority. That would mean that the political paralysis ends. We pass the negotiated deal through Parliament. That allows the negotiations to move forward, and that alleviates some of the uncertainty. So consequently, I would expect a very strong rally in the pound if the Tories secure a strong majority. On the contrary, I think that the worst case outcome would be a hung Parliament. We've seen what has been happening this last year when nobody has had a majority. Nothing passes basically from Parliament. You are literally paralyzed. But this time, if we get a hung Parliament, will be even worse than last year because the option of holding another election to break the new deadlock would be off the table, basically. We've just had an election. We are not going to have a second one.
Exactly.
So I would say if the Tories win, then we are likely to see huge gains in the pound, but if we see another hung Parliament, then the currency is likely to retest the lows that it was trading in recent months.
But what about the broader outlook for sterling? I mean, let's take the most optimistic scenario in this case. Let's say we have a Tory majority. Would it be enough to spark a long-term rally in sterling, or should we brace ourselves for more drama next year?
More drama is my call. Now, look, let's indeed take the most optimistic scenario. The Tories win big. Let's say they win all of the seats. So they push the deal they've negotiated through Parliament, and the UK leaves the EU, but that simply means that a transition period begins. This is not the end of Brexit. This is the end of the first phase of the negotiations. Then we enter the second phase of the negotiations, which will discuss the future trading relationships, fishing rights, and very, let's say, touchy and thorny issues. Now, what's the point here? That transition period will last for 1 year. If the UK wants to extend it, it has to apply for that by July. And Boris Johnson has said repeatedly we are not getting an extension. So that means they have 1 year to negotiate a very complex trade deal. The EU-Canada trade deal took 7 years to negotiate. So it's a very difficult task to get it done in 1 year. It's not impossible maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it. What's the point? I think that even if we do see a very strong rally in the pound or on a Tory majority, that will not be sustained for a very long. We are going to restart the negotiations, the drama will come back, the posturing, and I think that eventually the threat of a no-deal Brexit comes back on the table as well, and that leads to a reversal, let's say, of any gains that the pound posts on the election.
Marius, thank you very much for your interesting analysis and for joining me today. And thank you for watching this special report here at xm.com.